No, the normal elementary.
Well, we're gonna do it, or I had a Grinch sweater on. It should be recording. Yeah, it's recording.
Okay. You guys have.
But just a minute. I have those parents. Have to work.
Mitch and I sat and talked about that 2 weeks ago. There's gonna be a small flag in it, a coal.
I thought they would roll up a classroom flag or something.
Because there would have only been 44 stars.
All the stuff we would put in there.
Maybe not.
Maybe don't do that.
Maybe don't do that. That might be distracting. Yeah.
Somebody care?
Yeah, I put my bag down there. I don't know what hit.
Aren't you gonna be the press tonight, Pam?
Huh?
They will sit at the press table?
I don't know about that. Maybe.
Oh, Dave's here?
Yeah, he mentioned.
Yeah, he's probably coming in. Let him have that. Is he my picture in the damn paper?
See a picture in the paper?
No, my picture after that one meeting.
Yes, yes.
If he didn't ran my photos, that was horrible. I don't know what worse, that picture they ran or the fact that they told everybody in the world I never ran school.
Dual. Do you mind if I found
How you doing?
that I wanted?
How you doing?
RCS board email address. Oh, print it six. Board. Maybe they can share with you. Andy can share with you.
Thank you very much.
This just kind of. Yeah.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, I can be.
Make a beeline.
You guys all ready?
Hi, how are you?
Is everybody able to be logged in yet?
No.
I'm gonna actually recommend.
Oh, wait.
Signed up to speak.
You ready?
Hey, I didn't see you over there.
Yeah, you know, I'm trying to be out of sight, out of
I
mind.
don't get you good, maybe they're in bed up there. Look at this.
I'm trying to be invisible.
Yeah.
You're on.
Well, they're not all logged in yet.
You guys let me know when you're ready. Please.
Miss Sweat, you wanted to speak just to the tax hearing or?
I'm just gonna do one, and I figured I'd just say it now so I can make a beeline.
I know, but I thought I had mine today too.
Hey.
My daughter sent me a, while we were in there.
Photo Gita.
Thanks,
And this is being recorded.
It's on right now, recording.
Wow, you're on TV. Go ahead.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, is everybody ready? I'd like to welcome everybody here tonight for December's regularly scheduled meeting. If we can do the honors and stand up.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
John Brotherton.
Here.
Rhoda Johnson.
Here.
Nikki Pettit.
Here.
Mitch Wilson.
Here.
Joe Robinson. Tyler Wilson.
Here.
Andy Graham.
Here. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're here for our truth and taxation hearing first. So we need to approve this agenda, is that correct, Scott?
Correct.
So we need to approve this agenda, so can I get a motion to approve the truth and taxation agenda first?
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Brotherton made the motion, could I have a second, please?
I second.
Ms. Pettit with the second.
Don Brotherton.
Aye.
Louis Johnson.
Aye.
Nikki Pettit.
Aye.
Mitch Wilson.
Aye.
Tyler Wilson.
Aye.
Andy Graham.
Aye. Okay, public comment during the tax hearing. Mrs. Sweat?
Good evening, everyone. As I said before, I'm just going to cover everything I wanted to say this evening instead of signing up for two different. Okay, thank you. I want to address the proposed tax levy by Rantoul City Schools 137. I strongly feel the board should table the proposed tax levy and return to the drawing board and come to the citizens of this community with a reasonable levy. As a citizen of Rantoul, and like most, I don't mind paying my fair share of property taxes, which benefits our village and schools. However, when we have not seen progress with our schools and state standing, anything above funding for basic operating expenses, staff cost of living increase, basic benefits, basic transportation expenses, etc., is not warranted. Salary increases above and beyond is rewarding poor performance of our schools. Hiring additional administration is not warranted either. Our schools have declined since the closing of Chanute Air Force Base and have flatlined at the bottom of the state for the last 10 plus years. Funds from property taxes, state and federal government, as well as grant funding based on the socioeconomic status of our community, is being poured into our schools. Why does it appear the majority of the property taxes are going towards salaries? Mostly contract employees living outside of corporate limits. With the cost per student now averaging $13,000 a year, we are still failing to meet the mark and failing our youth. Other comparable districts are ranked higher with less funding. Last year, RCS claimed to have lost out on $700,000 and blamed everyone from the county clerk's office and the village for the error that was made with the tax levy. Now it appears you are trying to recoup the cost of your own error by putting the burden on the taxpayers. Per my FOIA, this is money you never had and was never entitled to because of what was levied. Again, this should be tabled and a responsible increase to cover only necessary operating and salary increases should be brought back before the public and approved. With the above said, the plan to redistrict RCS at this time without a complete independent review of the systemic issues and failures already implemented appears to be a distraction and lacks full disclosure and transparency. Spending per student has increased, additional staff and specialized staff and administrators have been hired, promotions given, etc., have occurred over the last 10 years under the previous superintendent. Educational and discipline trends tried, and for the most part, have not been as successful as hoped. Stop playing games with our children and the community. Table redistricting and convene an independent committee to review and audit the current system and make recommendations which are sustainable and will achieve benchmarks and successes we desire for our students and want to see in our community. Over the last 12 to 14 years, our children have been treated like a pea in a shell game, moved from neighborhood schools to grade centers, then back. Then children selectively being moved out of their neighborhood schools to other schools to address the lack of diversity and equity and other issues. East Lawn was used as a crutch, claiming overcrowding as one reason for redistricting. However, Pleasant Acres has consistently been the most populous school in this district. It currently has almost 400 students. The other schools are within 30 of East Lawn. Again, I implore the board to table both issues and come back to the citizens with a reasonable proposal or vote no. All I hear is, it is for the children. The proposed path and current impact on our children and community is unacceptable. Then do better than what you have for our children. You have adequate resources. It just needs to be better implemented and allocated. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, at this time, that concludes our truth and taxation hearing. Could I have a motion to adjourn this?
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Tyler Wilson made the motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
1 second, okay.
John Brotherton.
Aye.
Moto Johnson.
Aye.
Nikki Pettit.
Aye.
Mitch Wilson.
Aye.
Tyler Wilson.
Aye.
Andy Graham.
Aye.
And can I ask a question real fast? I should have got before that. Why are comments not taken before the vote? That would seem to be a better way to do it in case any of the board members were on the bubble about which way to vote.
I'll address that when we get down to the
right.
public.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, okay, I'd like to call the regular scheduled board meeting to order. Can I get a motion?
I so move.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Pettit with a motion, Mr. Mitch Wilson with a second.
John Brotherton.
Aye.
Moto Johnson.
Aye.
Nikki Pettit.
Aye.
Mitch Wilson.
Aye.
Tyler Wilson.
Aye.
Andy Graham.
Aye. Okay, item number 6. We need to approve tonight's agenda. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to review it. If there's any additions or corrections or modifications that needed, this is the time. If not, can we have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I'll move.
Mr. Tyler Wilson? Can I get a second? Mr. Mitch Wilson, second.
Andy Graham.
Aye.
Moto Johnson.
Aye.
Mitch Wilson.
Aye.
Tyler Wilson.
Aye.
Nikki Pettit.
Aye.
John Brotherton.
Aye. Please see if anybody signs it. Do what? I was just making sure nobody signed it. Okay. So this is the public speaking part, and I'll say a couple things. Mr. Chambers, I'll answer your question right now on that. Is like every governmental body that I've ever been to, public has a chance to make comment, sometimes before the meeting, sometimes after the meeting, sometimes both. It is good practice that the board not interact with those public comments. This is our business meeting, but we have always, since I've been on this board, and since I've been coming to board meetings, I've always given a chance for the public to speak before any items are voted on. So we had a truth and taxation hearing. Mrs. Sweat spoke. Now we're at our public meeting, and we have Mrs. Prater ready to come in.
I brought up some issues the last couple of times I was here, and you told me that you would respond to me and my questions. I waited about 2 weeks and checked my phone every day and never seen a call from you. I was just wondering what's the timeline on answering my questions?
So I did call you back, and I did not, you never answered. I left one voicemail for you.
Okay, I never got that.
So,
All right. Well,
Okay.
if you could call me back, I'd like to
Okay.
have my questions answered about superintendent's pay and contracts and things like that.
okay.
Still interested in that?
If you could be so kind to give me your phone number, I'll call you back at a convenient time.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry, you didn't get it.
I'm trying to do it like my landline.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item number 8, tonight is a consent agenda item. All items under consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature and will be enacted by a single motion and subsequent roll call vote. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless a board member so requests, in which, in the event, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered as a first item approved after the consent agenda. Does anybody want to read it, or is it me? All right, I make the motion to approve the consent agenda items, including personnel report as submitted, with the stipulation that each individual is required to comply with all requirements for new hires as indicated in Illinois statutes and RCS board policy and procedures, including ratification of bills prepaid by the finance manager under board policy 4-50. Can I have a second?
I second.
Ms. Pettit with a second.
Don Brotherton,
Aye.
Moto Johnson,
Aye.
Nikki Pettit,
Aye.
Mitch Wilson, Tyler Wilson,
Aye.
Andy Graham.
Aye. Item number 10 would be the tax levy. You want to take this? Okay.
I'm going to read a statement on behalf of the board regarding the tax levy. And this will be available after the meeting on our website. During the November 2021 meeting, the superintendent and chief school business official presented a tentative tax levy. The recommended tax levy this year is significantly higher than a typical year because RCS anticipates being able to include TIF 1 in our tax extension. For an individual taxpayer, if TIF 1 is able to be included in the tax extension, we estimate a 1-year 9.7% increase in the RCS portion of the tax bill. However, this is still an estimated 5.9% lower than the 2018 RCS portion of the tax bill. RCS would like to thank the Village of Rantoul and the Champaign County Clerk for working with us to resolve the challenges around the ending of TIF 1. At the November board meeting, the superintendent shared the most accurate information he had at the time. Since that presentation, the superintendent wishes to clarify that the Village of Rantoul was not required to hold an annual joint review board with RCS for TIF 1 because TIF 1 was established under a unique 1995 law. Additionally, although RCS did not directly collect property taxes from TIF 1, RCS did receive flow-through funds from the Village of Rantoul. According to the Village of Rantoul, RCS received $3.3 million in disbursements from 2004 to 2020. Rantoul City Schools exists to build a stronger community by educating our students. To that end, the Board of Education for RCS is committed to improving our schools and reducing the property tax burden within our community. The Village of Rantoul is making significant strides to improve our community, which can be seen in the ongoing economic development projects and the overall feeling of optimism. We recognize that improving our schools and reducing the property tax burden serves to aid in Rantoul's future growth. Over the past several years, the overall tax rate for the RCS portion has been trending downward. The Board of Education intends to continue to work to reduce property taxes while maintaining the overall financial health of RCS. To do this, if the TIF funds are available to be recaptured, RCS plans to refund a portion of the increase in taxes over the next 2 years to homeowners by rebating up to 50% of the TIF fund related increase in 2022 and 25% in 2023, and pursue a tax abatement grant from the state of Illinois. If we are awarded this grant in full, we may be able to reduce the property tax rate substantially and permanently.
Thanks, Scott. We have a motion for the tax levy.
We have to put the number in.
Okay.
I forgot to write the number in.
Okay.
It's what is on the,
9.7, isn't it?
no, it's the,
Do you need the extension, the
Yeah.
total numbers? It's 6 million.
no. Motion to approve the tax levy resolution with a tax levy of, and we need to put the percentage in. It's at 14.
Yeah.
Whatever was published in the paper.
Yep.
Yeah, I have that for you.
I can pull it up if I need to.
It's 14.74365%.
Okay.
Hold on. 14,75635.
I'm sorry, 14.74365%.
All right, thank you.
want to make the motion then? Mr. Bennett? Make the motion. No?
It's not what I'm saying.
Okay. I'd like to make the motion to approve, I can't make the motion. Somebody else make the motion.
Make the motion to approve.
The tax levy
The
on what?
tax levy, provision with the tax levy of 8,675. 14.
Hannah, could you read the,
14.7435%.
okay.
And approve the filing of the tax levy.
Do we have a second, please?
I'll second.
Mr. Tyler Wilson with the second.
John Brevington,
Aye.
Moto Johnson,
Nay.
Nikki Pettit,
Aye.
Mitch Wilson,
Aye.
Tyler Wilson,
Aye.
Andy Graham.
I need to abstain.
All right.
I need to abstain because of some conflict.
So the motion passes. Motion carries. All right.
Item number 11. Elementary school reorganization recommendation. Mr. Wood.
All right. That's okay. In the packet for the board, and this was public prior to the meeting in the packet online, is my recommendation at this time for elementary reorganization. I'm going to go ahead and read it. I appreciate the feedback from our community, staff, and board members during the past months as we have considered options for addressing challenges in our district. RCS needs to make bold changes in order to effect significant improvements in our student outcomes. I do believe that the proposal to reorganize our elementary schools into true grade level centers better positions our district to improve the outcomes of our students. But it is clear to me that moving to grade level centers at this time is not a popular option for our community and staff. The overall resistance to any significant changes to our elementary school organization greatly increases the probability that those changes would not be as effective as possible. At this time, I do not recommend significant changes to our elementary school organization. However, I do recommend administration and the board continue to explore the possibility of grade level centers in the future. Given the challenges of the past 2 school years, the uncertainty of a possible preschool for all programming mandate from the federal government, probable increased federal funding related to school construction, and overall resistance to making significant changes, I recommend the following changes for the 22-23 school year. One, and these are up there, and reevaluate all students who are currently petitioners and shift those students to their neighborhood schools when it can alleviate class size concerns. Shift a portion of the bilingual program population from East Lawn to Pleasant Acres. At this time, it is most feasible to shift to Pleasant Acres from East Lawn bilingual students whose neighborhood school is Broadmeadow, but currently attend East Lawn. Establish and enforce a policy limiting enrollments into classrooms that are above the district average for a particular grade level. For example, if the district's average class size for third grade is 20, and the third grade classrooms in a school are already at 20, a student enrolling late or after the start of the school year may not be able to enroll in a neighborhood school and be required to attend a school where the class size is less than 20. The district would continue to be responsible for transportation consistent with existing policy and practice. And the student would be able to enroll in the neighborhood school for the next year or petition to remain in the assigned school. And 4, provide additional support staff to schools based on enrollment. For example, East Lawn will continue to have a higher average enrollment compared to the other 3 schools. The district should allocate targeted staffing to offset the higher enrollment. There is no board action required at this time to move forward with the above changes. Item number 3 may require board action depending on whether the recommended action requires board approval. So that's me saying I have to investigate how that policy would be spelled out and whether that will require official board action. The way the board policy boundaries exist right now, it's just that I have to inform the board. But I do think I need to have something more spelled out also for accountability with our community. I will consult with our attorney on item number 3. Item number 4 would require board action if we recommend any additional staffing requests beyond our typical staffing allocations, such as adding a full-time administrator. So it's typical for us if we're creating a position or adding a unique position to a building, that is approved by the board in advance. That's different from if we need another fifth grade teacher, we don't bring those to the board for approval because that's based on strictly on class sizes and enrollment. So that is the recommendation at this time.
Okay. I'll just say something real quick. If does anybody else want to have anything to say on this? No? Okay, I'll say it. I'd like to thank you and the staff for all the hard work you did and the community events. I'd like to thank the teachers union and staff because I know you guys were fully involved in that. But I could not agree more with what Scott said in his opening paragraph is bold changes are needed. And those might not be popular with some parents or some staff at some point in time. I look forward to you investigating more options and what we can do to make a better learning environment for our kids. So I don't think this is done forever. And I think there still needs to be something done, but I'm not saying what is best and what's not best, but thank you for all the work you and your staff did.
I have a comment about that. I applaud Dr. Woods for what he has done because, as he said in the first paragraph, he feels that there needs to be things. That is certainly a board situation that needs to be taken care of, maybe. But I really appreciate that he did listen. And overwhelmingly, I heard that that the people did not want to see major changes. And I did not want to see major changes. I mentioned that 3 or 4 meetings ago. That I want more of a decent amount of disruption. And I think this will be welcomed by the majority of people, at least the ones I talked to, and I tried to get a cross section. So I really appreciate that he did listen. And I think this is an example of, we do try to listen. Do we always get everything right? No. But I do think we try to listen and take the input from the community and the staff and the faculty, everybody. So thank you, Dr. Woods.
Thank you. Okay. Anything else? Item number 12.
Okay, well, this is going to be item, we have to do them separately. This was on the agenda last month and I had it worded wrong, so we had to pull it off and now it's on this month. But we have 3 property tax abatement resolutions, and this is simply a procedural thing that we have to file with the county clerk every year. Our outstanding bonds, which is like our mortgage, okay? Our outstanding bonds are entirely paid for by 1% sales tax. So what we're doing on these 3 resolutions that we have to do separately is pass that we are basically telling the county clerk, don't collect property taxes to pay for the bonds. Okay, that's all it means. I'm probably oversimplifying it too much, but that is what we're doing here. And when we do the resolution, what the board member needs to say is, I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution abating the tax heretofore levied, and you have to read the whole thing. And we have to do each one separate.
Okay.
I really did ask if we could do it all at once.
Yeah. Does anybody want to make this first motion? You got to read the whole thing in the subject line if you're making it.
Andy, I think you're going to get all 3.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
I make a motion that we pass a resolution abating the tax heretofore levied for the year 2021 to pay debt service on taxable general obligation bonds, series 2010B of the district. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Everybody wants to say.
Tyler Wilson with the second.
Got it. John Brotherton.
Aye.
Moto Johnson.
Aye.
Nikki Pettit.
Aye.
Mitch Wilson.
Aye.
Tyler Wilson.
Aye.
Andy Graham.
Aye. Item number 13, I'll make a motion that we pass a resolution abating the tax heretofore levied for the year 2029 to be paid debt service of taxable general obligation school bonds, series 2016 of the district. Can I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Pettit with a second.
John Brotherton.
Aye.
Moto Johnson.
Aye.
Nikki Pettit.
Aye.
Mitch Wilson.
Aye.
Tyler Wilson.
Aye.
Andy Graham.
Aye. Okay.
I make the motion to
Pass a resolution. Pass a resolution.
pass a resolution abating the tax adhered to the for levied for the year 2021 to pay debt service on general obligation refunding school bonds, series 2020 of the district.
And I'll second it.
Perfect. All right, John Brotherton.
Aye.
Rover Johnson.
Aye.
Nikki Pettit.
Aye.
Mitch Wilson.
Aye.
Tyler Wilson.
Aye.
Andy Grant.
Okay, item number 15, school calendars.
All right, oh gosh, when did we meet? The association and district administration met to review calendars. I'm always optimistic and want to approve 2 in a row, knowing that I don't think I've ever been in a district where we haven't had to revise the second year. So we're looking to approve 2 calendar years for the school year calendar, and these are also posted in the packet in advance. Just the notes on this is 22-23 election day, November 8th is still a school holiday. And that is set to expire. So that would be the last time as a holiday unless it's renewed by the state. As a result, we removed Monday after Easter as a holiday, and I put holiday in quotes because Easter Friday and Easter Monday are not federal holidays, but they're traditionally days off in a lot of communities in this part of the world. 23-24, Easter Friday and Monday are off. Juneteenth is now a federal holiday. That does not affect our school calendar. It is a work holiday though for our employees who are 12 months. That's spelled out in the law. And probably the most noticeable change that teachers are probably the group that will notice it, is we always have started the school, not always, but for the last several years, we've started the school year with 2 Teacher Institute days. And we come back from winter break and have 1 Institute day. We're gonna start trying 2 Institute days at the end of winter break as a way for us to do a lot of professional development all together with our staff, just like we do at the start of the year. So those were the big changes, but either way, it always adds up to 185. There's 180, the breakdown's in the calendar. So students are in attendance 176 days. 4 days are Teacher Institute days, I believe. And I'm probably wrong, but in 5 emergency days that we hopefully don't use. So, all right.
Okay, anybody have any questions on the calendar? If not, can we have a motion to approve the next 2 year school calendar?
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Mitch Wilson with the motion. Can we have a second?
I second.
Mr. Motor Johnson with a second.
John Brotherton.
Aye.
Moto Johnson.
Aye.
Nikki Pettit.
Aye.
Mitch Wilson.
Aye.
Tyler Wilson.
Aye.
Andy Grant.
Aye.
And as I said, please don't be too shocked when we have the calendar back in front of us to fix it, because that seems to be the pattern. The state creates new holidays and there was this whole COVID thing one year, so. All right. We have some presenters. If you guys, do you have chairs? You want to grab chairs from up there?
Okay.
I'll introduce our presenters as they're coming up. Oh, wait till you're up there. And I think I have to click for you.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
I get ready to go. Gonna try to go over.
Okay.
First of all, Mr. Henderson, I told you 6:30.
32.
All right.
36.
Yeah.
Okay, just to kind of introduce ourselves, my name is Patricia Valente, and I'm the bilingual director. And I'm one of the chairs on the social equity working group. I started last year, and I get the awesome privilege to continue with this amazing team.
DeAndre Henderson, assistant principal at J.W. Ader. It's my first year in Rantoul City School District. And this is I'm also a co-facilitator with these 2 amazing ladies.
Hi, Lavette Harmon, assistant principal at Pleasant Acres, and this is my first year in the lovely Rantoul School District, and thank you for having us.
The way you say that makes it sound like you don't have other experience. You've been working in education a long time, both, all three of you.
But we did that the last time, right?
Yeah, okay.
So to kind of start off, I want to thank everybody in the board. It's been really awesome to see you at the meetings and participating in the subcommittees, connecting with you and using your facilities as principals are interacting with the community and launching out to do more. Have loved that we're starting to interact more as a district. Just an update, we started our first formal meeting this year in September. Then we've been meeting as subcommittees because we really want to work on voice and we want to have the community and the staff and the diverse population, diverse people we have in the community to have a conversation with us and to be able to make decisions and talk about how we can integrate what's happening in the community with what's going on in the district. That's why we went smaller. Then our second formal meeting is another big meeting where we talk about what we've been working on in our subgroups. And then we have another one coming up January 4th, please, 24th. Please feel free to come. Everyone's invited. We're really interested in getting feedback and making the changes needed in the district. Thank you. These are our contributors for this year.
Are you gonna read all their names?
No.
Nope, okay.
I mean,
One thing I would say, Nikki is our board member who's been
Yes.
attending since last year. What I would say is, we definitely still would like more community members and more family parents to be involved in this, because it is pretty heavily dominated by our staff. So that's not a problem, but we do definitely, I know, we had, I think, some more community members last year because we were 100% Zoom, so people were able to come in a little more easily on that, so.
And we do offer our meetings, our subcommittees via Zoom too. So we kind of go back and forth in person in Zoom or a hybrid type.
And then just there's this kind of, what is our vision, what is our purpose? This is something we're always thinking about as we're working together on the goals. Primarily, that goal, the social equity working group in Rantoul Today's Schools will present actionable solutions to the Board of Education to create a culture within the district and community that promotes and values all students' equity, specifically students who have been historically underserved. And so just working together to create actionable items is really important. That we're not just running our mouth, right? And so these are the 5 different
Excuse me one moment.
Yes.
Can you guys please stop talking in the back? It's hard for me to hear what she's saying. Thank you.
And these are the 5 subcommittees and 5 groups that we're working on. And we're going to kind of explain the updates since you've given us the charge to work on specific goals that we ended last year with. And we want to update on these different subcommittees, what we've been doing. So next.
All right, so I kind of co-facilitate or the academic achievement group. So we have met quite a few times. And in our meetings, we have branched with the literacy academic subcommittee of the district. And one thing that we're going to be looking at is the reading resources that are available in the district to make sure that they identify the essential components of reading instruction, which is up there: phonemic awareness, phonics, vocabulary, spelling, fluency, and reading comprehension. And then we want to make sure that those curriculums are culturally responsive. And so we will use a tool to rate the cultural relevancy of those curriculums, and just to make sure that it goes deeper than our people of color depicted in the pictures. So we want to make sure that it hits a little bit more cultural relevancy for our students. We want to look at growth gains on FastBridge by race and determine the equivalency of the gains by race. So we want to look at what each group is doing, how they're growing, but we also want to look at the rate of growth to make sure that the curriculums or the programs are not just increasing growth for one area of students, but that our students are all growing at the same rate in addition.
And FastBridge is our district assessment tool that we use, and each school is using it. So that's why we chose FastBridge as the instrument to measure that.
Yes. And then if we need more data, we can look at iReady, which the junior high uses, which is another tool, and Lexia, the elementary uses that. And the district already has phonological awareness screenings in place, and that's usually done with iReady, FastBridge, or Lexia. And the Instructional Literacy Subcommittee will be looking at the next steps after students have been identified below grade level. So that's the district committee. So they're gonna look at that and look at what's next. And then the academic subgroup committee will look at the data by national and state and district averages to determine if students of color in our district are being over or under identified. And that is the first part. The second part is project-based learning. And so the first project-based learning cohort was created or started in September of 2021, and cohort 2 will begin in January of 2022. The platform that they use is the Defined Learning platform, which is like an online tool that they can go out and do research, put projects in, get materials, a list of materials and activities, and then they can bring that back to their classroom. One of the models that we're going to use for that is the train-the-trainer model. So we have teachers who are in these cohorts, and then they're going to come back into our buildings and work with the teachers in the building and help them learn how to use the Defined Learning platform. And then we can infuse that throughout our schools. So they can do class observations for that. We have begun at Pleasant Acres in our staff meetings, having some time where our teachers who are project-based learning trained are actually doing implementation and training in our staff meetings with other teachers. And lastly, the teachers in cohort 1 has access to up to $1,000 to spend on materials, and that's to support their STEAM projects in the classroom, for supplies, specific projects, books, and field trips. And I think I forgot that we have a STEAM grant that Jan Ferrix wrote that kind of helps with that defined learning platform. So it kind of is supplementing the money for that. Any questions?
Thank you.
It's a lot. No, thank you.
Disciplinary Practices is me. So our subgroup met twice. The group is made up of a teacher who's also a parent, a school psychologist, and we've got a couple more coming in, another teacher, a music teacher in the building, and myself. We've got another couple more that are just getting added for our next meetings. But so far we've talked about data. A lot of data was shared within discipline for last year in terms of, you know, where are our inequities at? What are our gaps between our Black and brown students and their white counterparts in terms of out of school suspensions, expulsions, any type of disciplinary action that keeps them out of the classroom. And I know that was all shared with you last year. So the first thing we said is we don't need to keep looking at data that's going to tell us the same thing. So we want to come with a suggestion of what are some things that we can do moving forward to help start to close those gaps. So this is what the Disciplinary Practices subgroup came up with. The first thing that we want to do is request an administrative committee to meet to define the action codes in Skyward so that there's an equitable coding of the discipline-related data. There's about approximately 50 codes in Skyward right now that administrators use to, or teachers can also, or the action code or the referral codes. There's about 50 referral codes that teachers or administrators can use to code what the offense is within the classroom environment or the school environment in general. Those codes, for example, there's one called physical aggression, one called attack no weapon. These codes, without clear guidance, could be interchangeable. And we find that there's a lot of bias in how those codes are attached to our students based on race. So what we want to do is first convene a committee in January that will meet to sit down as a group so that we have a common definition of these codes that we're inputting to get a better use of our data. Our data will be more useful if we can have if we have a very concrete example of what this looks like, and who's getting assigned these types of action codes or disciplinary referral codes. We would also like to create a district-wide rubric for self-evaluating disciplinary practices. That would go out to teachers as well as administrators. So we'd like to create two different rubrics. One that would have, best practices in how we are assigning discipline, what the outcomes of those disciplinary actions are, and how much we're keeping kids out of class based on our disciplinary actions. And we would like that to be in place every year. So once we get that generated, we'd like to present it to the board as something that we could use with teachers and administrators every year, so that we are truly reflecting on our practices every year when it comes to discipline and the equity within our discipline. We also suggest that more resources be made accessible and available to classroom teachers. When we talked about, there's a lot of resources in the district already, but some of the accessibility of some of those resources is not there. And when we talk about accessibility, some of it is there's not enough time in a school day for teachers to be able to unpack all of the information that they're getting at one time. Sometimes we talked about the conscious discipline book. Just unpacking that whole book would take a long time for a lot of our practicing educators. So what we'd like to do is maybe create a committee moving forward that gives those pieces in small digestible bites that they're able to be modeled in practice. An example of this could be video clips of modeling best practice from conscious discipline or restorative practices or whatever it may be, and sending that out to staff on a weekly basis. And that could be done by on a district level, like all staff get it, or it can be done on a building basis level. The last suggestion that we had from our meetings was that disciplinary practice be a standard part of staff, partner, mini team, and team meetings. So just making sure that that accountability level is in there for disciplinary practices. So it's not just here's what we should be doing. We know we're not doing it, but nothing's being done about it. So when we have that we're talking about disciplinary practices in our mini team meetings, our grade level meetings, our staff meetings, that it's something that they have to report out on. They have to report what their reflections on are and how they're going to move forward in the future to change some of those outcomes for our minoritized students. Any questions on disciplinary practices?
A lot of stuff happening.
Yeah. I do have one. You talked about the codes. Would it be simpler to get fewer codes, or would that complicate things even more?
I think we can get rid of some codes. I think some we have to have by
state. As a teacher thinking about 50 codes, what does that fall under? I think that could be a little bit.
We started some of this last year with the defiance, disruption, disrespect.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of meetings just to get through 3. And we eliminated 1. So I think it's a healthy practice too for those of us, for the folks in classrooms to have those conversations. Talking about defining the behavior really helps you process what you're experiencing.
I can only imagine trying to figure out, 50 codes.
Well, some of them are, you said it, some of them are required by state code that we have to have it. And so like attack no weapon, I think is actually a state code. Fortunately we don't. Never mind. Okay. Next.
Yeah.
All right.
Next subcommittee is the Family and Community Leadership. And each building has been charged by the board to create parent groups. And those parent groups, each building, junior high, elementary buildings, have been working to do reach out meetings with the community to build parent interest. Northview, East Lawn, PA, some of them call networking at Northview, others have called it coffee,
We have coffee and conversation.
Coffee and conversation, sometimes it's donuts and coffee at East Lawn, and Broad Meadow's gonna launch some more in January. And each building has done kind of a big activity with parents at the ball field with, thank you, Andy, that was awesome, with Pleasant Acres and Broad Meadow. Just really adding avenues for parents to be involved. And so we're really kind of at the grassroots and kind of the PTA, the PAC meeting, really trying to get that back into the schools and getting more voice and more interaction. And then also the parent liaison team has been working with attendance and doing home visits and helping with vaccinations, giving rides to parents to help them use the Carl Mobile. So being building connections where parents aren't able to have access, having a committee together where we can talk through strategically how we can give. I saw Mr. Brotherton, I think, one day going to a parent's house and like just building those connections so parents can have access to the school. And can I give you a ride? Can I introduce you to somebody? How are you feeling? Wellness visits. And so connecting with attendants, connecting with principals has been really important. So again, still really grassroots, still trying to figure out a system and a process, but we're out there connecting and helping out for family and community leadership.
I'll say part of building community as a school district, we had Mr. Golston a couple of meetings ago talked about PTAs. I think the goal for this, as we've talked about it as an admin team, is that yes, these are parent-led, it becomes parent-led. But until we have parent-led groups, we have a greater responsibility to facilitate it. And the easy example is the bilingual parent committee that we have. You know, it's a required thing that we have to do. We have to do it, right? So Patricia, 4 years ago, decided we want this to be a parent-led thing. And it took 2 years, I would say, of us as an admin really leading it to get to the point where the parents took over. Like at the holiday the light parade, what was that called? This December 2nd, 3rd. That parade that night, I had no idea that like this huge group of our bilingual families was just gonna show up and walk in the parade. That's the kind of stuff they do.
That was our Zumba class.
That was the Zumba class.
It was Zumba class.
Yes, and they were dancing the whole way. But
So we just had to dance and,
But it's that kind of stuff, it didn't happen overnight. And it took years of us working on that, and we have to keep working on it to sustain it. And so the task for each of the buildings right now is to put things in place to bring the parents in and find opportunities to get them into more leadership roles. And it's going to take some time. So I just talked too much, sorry. Are we ready for the next slide?
Yeah.
Okay.
This one's an easy one. This committee, no, this is the easy one for the board. This committee is going to be combined with the district committee that's already in existence for staff recruitment and retention. Some of the things that were talked about in the meeting was ongoing partnering with Golden Apple, ISB, and EIU. We discussed coming with more school partnerships. And I know that when we were talking, everyone who was a part of this subgroup was also a part of the district meeting. So it just made sense to combine the district or the equity subgroup with that, but to ensure that we have an equity lens that's always operating when we're talking about staff recruitment and retention on the district level.
And connecting to that is in the building meeting with Scott, as he talked about changing like different formats and being able to communicate how we're recruiting and how we're consciously going after minority recruits so that we can increase different staff, the diversity of the staff. And then we just were talking with Golden Apple about hiring and supporting the staff that we do have and being able to help them to have continue to get a degree, to be able to stay in the district. Nikki was gonna.
What is Golden Apple? What is Golden Apple?
Well, I don't know what it technically is, but it's a
We can have Eden.
Eden is a Golden Apple.
She's the Golden Apple.
person, so don't put her on the spot right now. Unless you're comfortable. Eden.
Yeah, so Golden Apple is a program that serves through college freshmen who want to be teachers, all the way through practicing teachers and administrators and retired teachers and administrators. So the goal is both staff recruitment and retention through the whole state, as well as recruiting college students and high school students to become teachers. So they often give out like big scholarships to young people who want to be teachers, as well as people with bachelor's degrees who want to come into the teaching profession. And the goal is to send talented teachers into underserved schools and districts, and especially teachers of color.
And they provide mentorship. It's really amazing to hear her stories about how, like, she has a 2-year mentor. They talk, they have conversations. They deal with a lot of social equity and how to bring that into the district and where you're at. So it's like a wraparound service. It's great.
The biggest challenge, so we have the effort of the social equity working group is to diversify our teaching staff and administrative staff. At the same time, as a profession, especially in Illinois, there are very few people going into the field at all. And I know Mr. Wilson can talk about that too, as from what he sees at the high school. It's not just a Rantoul problem. It's the numbers of folks as undergrads going into education has declined significantly. People are leaving the profession earlier. People are leaving the state of Illinois is another trend. So just filling positions is one challenge. The other challenge is filling positions with outstanding and minority staff is the other piece of it. That's why we're really having to try to start to reach out with these other groups. I set you up, Mitch. You do want to say anything?
Well, I was just going to say, within the last couple of weeks, I was on the ISA website, and there was a little over 2,700 jobs available in the state of Illinois in the education system.
And you didn't just say that because you're looking for a job. All right.
But I mean, just tell you that it's not just a Rantoul thing. It's all across the state of Illinois, you know.
And I know you went to it and I went to it up in Chicago. We went to the teacher shortage seminar, and I was telling Jen, they didn't give much benefits or many ideas. I was pretty underwhelmed, I should say, at least.
Somebody in the crowd spoke up, and the biggest takeaway I took away from that was a guy in the crowd that said, when he was in college, he had to go do your student teaching, which is basically your internship. And he also had to work a job to pay for the gas money to drive to his school where he had to student teach at. But his roommate in college was a finance major and got paid $27,000 a year to do his internship.
Yeah, right.
And the company gave him $3,000 to relocate to that community.
Yeah.
And so it's like, and we don't have any connection with our professors, but yet we still got to pay college tuition. And then find a way to get to that school.
Right.
So they did not give very good pointers for us to bring back to you guys at that seminar. I will tell you that right now.
The thing I would say, and at some point I'll be coming back to the board with more specifics on it, is we are going to have to get a lot more aggressive. And that probably means spending a lot more money than we ever have on recruitment. We have a teeny tiny budget for recruitment right now. And in order for us to get out there and see the people and try to woo them here, it's not just salary. Salary for a beginning teacher matters. And are we competitive if we're trying to bring in a mid-career teacher? You know, how do we stack up at that point? But unless we can't just rely on a website anymore or when I started, we just actually sent our resumes in. So we've got to get a lot more aggressive, and that's going to cost some money to do that. Okay, that's kind of a downer.
And next year, cultural humility. And so we had a survey go out to the staff in May, and we looked at that survey to develop the PD for the admin that we've been having. We three have been planning the administrative training for every Thursday. Every other Thursday, not every Thursday, not every other Thursday. We meet every week, but they meet every other Thursday.
Yeah, we meet every week, but they meet every other. We meet as admins every other Thursday.
And we create a schedule, a scope and sequence for each month for those Thursdays, and then even into a couple months ahead where we talk about specific, like we've talked about implicit
bias, identity. We've talked about case studies. Our last meeting we had was about analyzing equity data, which we brought in a speaker from Pennsylvania who does a lot of work with equity and analyzing equity data. And he was really informative about, some of the important parts of looking at data with an equity lens.
And we've had various other speakers come in and talk to the admin from like U of I, Dr. Choi from Millikan, and talking about the different aspects of like cultural relevance teaching, implicit bias, demographics of your school, and how do you integrate that into the into what you do. And so really training, our first tier of this PD is working with the admin and kind of getting them supported and ready to bring that to the staff. And so now we're entering kind of the second phase of bringing it to the staff. And you are all invited to January 3rd with Dr. Sonia Whitaker. Please put that on your calendar, 8 o'clock. It's our Institute Day. And
she
I don't see you all
actually,
writing it down. So.
she actually,
write that down. It's already
I'm sure it's already there. She actually just spoke at the Illinois Association of School Boards. I don't know that if you hear her up there.
I don't know if we went to hers. I didn't go to her session.
So she did have a session up there. She's I believe a superintendent or assistant superintendent in Dalton School District. She's been doing the work for 15 years. She does have a website, drsoniawhitaker.com. If you want to check out all of her biography and everything that she's been doing. We're excited to have her on January 3rd to kind of kick off equity for the district. In talking with her and interviewing people for this, we wanted to know, can you get staff members excited about equity? Because this is kind of their first real, hit the ground, toe dip into equity. And so we want to make sure that we present it to them in a way that gets them excited about it and gives them some actionable tools. So we're also going to be buying some books and giving it out to our staff on that day as well.
And then using those books for continual professional development through the rest of the year. So as in January 3rd, we kind of kick it off with staff. Now some of our Thursdays and our other half days that we have will be more dedicated to the equity work. We wanted to first support the admin and being able to support it in their building. Now we're starting to bring that charge and action to the staff with the empowerment of the admin to help carry it and lead it. And so we're continued equity PD with admin and then and adding coaches and adding staff so that we're all saying the same thing. And it's more of a framework. It's more of a way of looking at what we do in our practices instead of like, oh, I read a book. I got it. I'm done. It's more like how do we infuse it into everything? And so January 3rd, they've already sent it out, many of the admin do the implicit association test with the staff, being able just to start that reflection process, creating a document to model language that will move from deficit mindset to an equity mindset. So really, like what things can we say instead of, right? How can we change our language?
Instead of minority, underrepresented.
Mm-hmm. And then developing equity survey to guide future PDs. So we're working on that for January 3rd as well. Staff during the afternoon would take in the survey and then we would look at the survey from the staff. And we were talking also, Nikki, of sending it out to the community, first starting with the staff. We want to get to the students in the community so that we can create PD that is relevant for everyone that we're working with. And then the book study and providing schools with a framework so that we're all kind of moving in a similar direction. Even though buildings are different, you can have a framework that allows you the flexibility to adjust to where your building's at, because each building is at a different place with equity than, like Northview's in a different place than Broadmoor, different place than East Lawn, different. And so to lock the buildings into one thing is not taking into account the culture of the building. So we want to be careful of being sensitive to each building and their needs, but still pressing everyone to move forward, right? And so, anything else you want to say?
No, I think you said it all.
Okay.
Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you guys for all your hard work.
And
I have a question for you.
questions, all right.
Question.
Go ahead, Tom.
On the 24th is your formal meeting? Location, time,
Aider, junior high,
so
library.
that way the people
Yeah,
listening know.
and it's in out somewhere else too, right? It's from 6 to 7:30.
Yes.
In the IC, the Innovation Center over at Aider. There is also a Zoom link attached to it as well. So we'll resend out the Zoom link with the meeting invite. We'll send it out to all district admin or district employees so that we know where it's at.
And community as well. Maybe we can do
And we can post it.
post it on Facebook, also do like maybe.
And the 3rd also here at Aider?
January 3rd is at JW Aider, and it'll be in the main gym as the keynote speaker, and that will be from 8:30 to 9:30.
Right, that way everybody listening can hear it.
Well, that is not open to the public.
It's open to you.
It's open to the board and the community members who are in the group, in the committee right now.
Yeah, because we do have to limit that for space, so. I mean, not that thousands of people are gonna show up. You never know, you know?
course they are.
And if someone in the audience really wants to go, just talk to us, we can probably figure it out.
But definitely, please.
All right.
Contrary to what the superintendent said about being impressed about all this,
I just meant the recruitment part, all right.
but thank you. Sometimes I hear people, well, use teachers don't, you know. What time and effort that you guys put into this, and everybody. And then here, it's the day before the end of school, and you're here this night. You know, your willingness to do things. It really encourages me that things are gonna change. And it's gonna take, you know, but I just feel better, so thank you.
And Patricia, I don't know if it's just you or if you're bringing the whole group, but she's coming Saturday morning,
Yep.
7 o'clock. She's gonna be.
This is my crew right here. Andy, right here. What you talking about? What you talking about?
Yeah, they're gonna be out there.
We're gonna make ornaments.
So they're helping at a community event on Saturday.
Thank you, guys. One thing I'd like to just point out for the board is, for me, this is an example, I call it promises made, promises kept. Last year, as a board, you made, well, not all of you, and you weren't all on this board, but the board approved specific actions. And the reason for this presentation is to show how we are continuing to follow up and act on basically those mandates that we have from the board. So we want to make sure that we're doing what the board expects us to be doing. All right.
Okay. Item number 17 is some first reading of some board policies. Do you want to tell that?
I do. Yes, there has been so much new legislation coming out of Springfield right now that I believe it's 160 pages of new board policy updates that have to go in. Most of them are just reflective of changes in the law. So we always call it a first reading, where all of these policy updates are in your packet. There are 4 policies update to note in here, which I have on the screen. I am not asking in January for the board to approve item number 1, which is in policy 660, which is regarding comprehensive sex education. At this time, Jenny Frericks and Lindsay Rubach are working with our teachers who teach health at the junior high and our elementary teachers about what this means. This got picked up quite a bit in the media because some of the content in the new curriculum has made the news. I'll just say it that way. That's a good way for me to be neutral on it. So we want to make sure we are coming to the board knowing what we're going to do with the sex ed law. And the state of Illinois still hasn't provided the guidance yet. So they passed the law that established they have to give us guidance, and we don't have that yet. And this is supposed to go into effect next school year. Okay. So we're not going to move forward on the sex ed. Colon 6135, I'm recommending we remove item number 4, which has to do with course acceleration, because we do not have a high school. So I did consult with another K-8 district, and that component is being taken out because we don't have a high school. We do have kids, we have cases where if we have a 7th or 8th grader who's capable of taking a high school class, we do work with our THS to try to set that up. We have not had one. We had one we were going to do it with this year, but the parent chose not to. But so we will do it when we can. It's just we're not going to put it in policy to require it. Policy 7160 is some new laws on dress code, and it's probably made more news as far as school athletic uniforms. But I will put into it for the recommendation that we would expand ours to acknowledge race, ethnicity, and hair texture within the policy. I think it is, well, I would like all districts to probably put it in, but it definitely with the looking at our students is something we need to make sure we're including. So it'd be basically not discriminating against a child because of their hair texture. Or their race or ethnicity, and that goes with clothing. So I know this year, and Mitch may have started seeing it at track meets and cross-country meets, but a lot of this is, for instance, sports. You used to, if you didn't wear the uniform, you couldn't participate. Well, depending on religion and maybe culture. I saw a lot of hijabs, which are the head wraps at cross-country meets this fall. I'd never seen that before. Modesty is an issue that is acknowledged in the law. So the shorts that are worn in volleyball are not required all the time. If a girl is not comfortable doing that now, those kinds of things. And we will affirm that in our policy that cell phones are required to be kept out of sight. So that's just a change in the discipline policy. We have to make a decision, are cell phones out of sight or what? And our current practice is the expectation is cell phones are out of sight. So we would just be continuing that. So that's really boring stuff. But anything on the board policy? I'm sure you all read it.
Anybody have any questions or comments?
That first one, we heard a lady, I don't remember what month it was, talk about that bill that's coming out. And I think she had either asked or made mention of some kind of waiver to where her elementaries would
That was communication with us, yeah.
would be excluded from that. Is that something that's being?
That's what we have to determine. Currently, yes, you can anyway. You can opt out of health curriculum. We really don't hit anything related to sex ed directly, that we would all in our brains think about sex ed until 7th grade. And that's pretty standard. 6th, 7th grade is when it comes in. We follow something called Aaron's Law in all of our grades. And that is about, it's about appropriate touching. So that's a kind of an anti-molestation law. And so we're doing that already. And there's already notification that goes out to parents on that they can opt out of it. But I think it's going to be some decisions the board's going to have to make as far as what we want that to look like. I've shared with Andy that, my concern is the way I'm understanding law right now is that if we have sex ed, we must follow this new curriculum. I don't want us to lose sex ed altogether because of parts of the curriculum that are going to possibly be strongly objectionable. So how do we find that middle ground? Now the board could say, we're just going to adopt it all and be fine with it. I'm just expecting you're not, but we'll see. And so we've got to come up with that. But there already is opt-out language in our policy regarding curriculum. That was a long answer to your question.
Thank you.
All right.
Anybody else have any further questions on the policies? Okay, do we approve those or just go on? You just read them?
Yeah. We don't have to prove anything yet. And there's no additional public comments.
Okay. Informational items.
Information items. Oh, we have three FOIAs this month. Again, I post the FOIAs app in the board packet, the responses to the FOIAs, if anyone wants to check those.
FOIA number 3.
Yes.
Looks like it may have got downloaded incorrectly.
Do I have the wrong date on it?
No.
I can check it.
It's a 176 page document.
Yes.
It looks like
Yes.
that's what they asked for?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's just data on purchasing records. It's a recurring one, right?
I didn't see a letter. Normally.
Yeah,
the other ones
that
have a
one, we
letter.
just upload the document to the webpage.
Yeah, and the date for that is, I think September through current date.
Yep.
And so there's a lot of activity.
Yep. Basically, my understanding is these are companies that collect all the data to try and determine pricing type things.
Gotcha.
All right, other information items. Hopefully you read through it all, but we are working with the high school district on a community partnership grant that involves multiple other agencies. And that's to provide primarily mental health supports and other supports in the community. That's a COVID-related grant. There's a bunch of curriculum and instruction updates that I wanted the board to be aware, and also for the public, kind of where we are on some of our curriculum projects. The annual report, board members, this document is there in front of you. This is the most relevant parts of the annual report. Last year I presented it in November. This year I'll be presenting it in January. I would like to ask that between now and January, you make sure to look through it. And if you have I plan to present it in January, but if the board wants to give me more direction, I can either do a very general presentation of the whole annual report, which is appropriate, or you could all ask me to focus on specific pieces of the annual report once you've looked through it, okay? There is not updated academic data. The academic data is very questionable. It's all on our school report card on the website right now. But we just learned today, for instance, from ISB that they are not doing the summative designations this year. They are adjusting the scoring scales. There's so much inconsistency in the data statewide as a result of COVID. So for instance, we only had, I think, 67% of our students take the state assessment last year. Normally it's 99%. Okay, so it's just the data's all over the place on that. So that's not in there, but a lot of the financial information, the information on staffing, all of that's ready to roll and it's in there. We shared this at the last meeting. We won a STEAM grant. We didn't know we were one of 8 districts in the whole state to win it. Thank you again, Jenny Frericks, grant writer extraordinaire, but that's $94,000. And as the Social Equity Working Group said, that's most of that is going to support our problem-based learning, project-based learning program that we're working on building in the pilot groups. COVID data is, last month I said our COVID data is good. But if I was including this week, and then now this month I'm including that week, and I did the numbers on our staff in the last 4 weeks, 27% of our unvaccinated staff have been COVID positive. That's a lot of employees out for work. We have about 50 unvaccinated staff members, so 14 cases in the last 4 weeks. The 8 weeks before that, we had 1 staff case of those unvaccinated employees. We are also starting to see the breakthrough cases that you're hearing about. So staff members who are fully vaccinated and have boosters are coming down with symptoms and testing positive. I've been communicating with the board that when are we going to close a school? When are we going to close a classroom? We have several classrooms in the district closed right now, mostly at the early grades, so pre-K. Can't remember the grade I closed today. And they're in different schools. Last 2 weeks ago, one of our elementary schools had 35% of the students out. So I was ready to close that school. And then as we went through it, a very large number of kids were coming back from quarantine the next day. So we didn't end up closing it. We're sitting at about an 85% attendance rate at the moment. A typical year, we'd be 92 to 95. But when we have dips going down it was Broadmeadow was down at 65% attendance. That's concerning, and we will pull the plug, so to speak, on having to come to school in person by building and by grade level. And so we'll do that if we need to. But hopefully winter break and the littles increasingly getting vaccinated will help us calm this. I also shared that the Dr. Ezike, I forget what her title is, but she's in charge of the Illinois Department of Public Health, is planning to recommend some changes to how close contacts are handled in schools, which again, I hope means we have more test to stay option instead of having to exclude kids who are, for no fault of their own, sitting next to someone who is diagnosed with COVID. So that's the hope on that one. Is there anything else? Media, we had 2 News Gazette articles this week, kind of interesting. So those are in your packet too. And board superintendent comments. Dang it, I thought we'd be an hour tonight. All right.
Any board members have any comments or anything they'd like to share with the group?
It's a personal, thank you very much.
All right. Mrs. Garn. Well, I would like to take an opportunity to wish all of you here on the board a happy holiday season, and staff, make sure you tell all them.
Well, what are we doing tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm passing out some of the checks that we've
Yes,
had.
we're gonna take a walk and visit all the schools tomorrow, so.
Yeah, but make sure you pass along in your season greetings to the staff of the board, and wishes everybody a happy holiday season as well, so.
If any other board members want to come with, 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, Andy and I are setting out to Ader first, and then we'll visit all the schools. And we have an envelope for them this year, so thank you. I'm really darn excited.
I would love to, but I'll be in the drums of the car.
Just tell them,
Drive the drivers
drive around the block. Just tell them to drive around the block. Okay, if there's nothing else, can we get a motion for adjournment?
I'll make the motion.
I second.
Mr. Tyler Wilson and Ms. Pettit.
John Brothers.
Hi.
Rono Johnson.
Hi.
Vicky Pettit. Aye. Mitch Wilson.
Aye.
Tyler Wilson.
Aye.
Andy Grant.
Aye.
It could have been shorter. Turn off the camera. All right.